Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto the sun god RWBY. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by WILLIAM11 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1, why do we have to read this? It was an average Friday at Beacon Academy, a secondary school for aspiring hunters and huntresses. The second to fourth year students were away on missions while first years were getting their education, or supposed to be anyway. In the library we find Team RWBY and Team JNPR. Team RWBY was playing the Remnant board game once again, while one member of JNPR was studying while the rest of the team was either reading comics, reading the same comic over her crush's shoulder, or annoying the team member who was trying to study. Oh, I hate this game, I always come so close to conquering Remnant, then someone destroys my forces. Weiss yelled as she looked at her pieces that had once been her main forces. Then stop playing as Atlas. The Atlas piece doesn't have much flexibility in the game and stop complaining, don't be a Wiesner. Yeah, I get it like whiner, but Yang was cut off as her team threw their defeated pieces, empty tuna can, or an empty cookie bag at her for the bad pun. Oh, you guys have no sense of humor. Hey Team Vomit Boy, at least one of you guys thinks I'm funny, right? Yang called out to the team using the table next to theirs. Team JNPR avoided eye contact and said nothing. Oh, you all suck. Yang said as she pouted. Yang, it's not that puns aren't funny, it's just you use them too much. Purah said to Yang with a sorry expression. Wait Yang, I thought we agreed you would stop calling me that after I bought you new boots. John said to Yang as he remembered what she called him. Sorry lady killer, old habits you know. Yang said as she scratched the back of her head. Oh, you're a lady killer. I knew there was something off about you. Ren, save me. Nora yelled jokingly as she leapt behind Ren. Ren just sighed and closed his book, knowing he wouldn't get much more reading done before anything else could happen. 10 gas canisters rolled up around them and released a colorless and odorless knockout gas. Within minutes both teams passed out and dragged somewhere to read a book of another universe. Now here we find our heroes in an underground vault with our knocked heroes, with a certain something new added to their outfits, an armband made for criminals who have access to their aura. These armbands block off any use of aura from affecting anything in the world. Ugh, what happened, where are we? RWBY asked no one as everyone else was still passed out from the gas. Oh crap guys, wake up. RWBY shouted as she shook everyone awake. RWBY, do you have any idea where we are? Yang asked her sister as she looked around to try to get any idea of where they are. The walls, floor and roof were all some type of metal, with a single door leading somewhere. Inside the room there were 2 large couches facing each other with a coffee table between them, each enough room on them to fit a team. A mini fridge was tucked away in the corner. Everything else is bare, nothing on the walls, no window, nothing but metallic gray, well that and a large television in the wall. I'll see if the door leads anywhere. John said with bit of courage and a slight tremble. As he walked to the door and tried opening it to find it unlocked. He slowly opened it and peeked inside to find a bathroom. Sigh. It's not exit, just a bathroom. With that John just shut the door. Hey guys, where are our weapons? RWBY asked as she looked for her darling scythe to hold in comfort, but it wasn't anywhere to be found. But that everyone checked themselves for their weapons. Great, so we have no weapons. Purah, could you be a deer and bend the walls so we can try to escape? Yang asked as Purah nodded and tried to use her semblance only to have nothing happen. Any day now would be nice, P-money. Yang said as she was starting to get impatient. I'm trying but nothing is happening. Sorry guys. Purah said as she gave up and slumped her shoulders. Hey guys, I found a note. Next to this book. Nora said as she poked between Yang and Purah with the items in hand. Okay Nora, just calm down now, what does the note say? Ren asked his partner childhood friend. Okay Ernie. It says, dear teams RWBY and JNPR, this is Professor Peach. For the reason you all are in Beacon's specialized holding cell, if due to numerous noise complaints from both other students and faculty about your teams in the library. As such we believe you all need some time to actually read a book. So until you finish the book next to the note you won't be getting out until Monday. Inside the mini fridge there is enough food and water for the next 2 days. After this is over please be more quiet in the library. The TV has a microphone to show a video of the book, it only activates when you read the book and doesn't have any other channels. Signed Professor Peach. As soon as Nora finished reading the note, Team JNPR looked towards Team RWBY and gave them the stink eye, even the sweet-tempered Spartan. Why are guys giving us that look? It's not our fault you guys are so loud. Weiss yelled out with a red face, trying to shift the blame to Team JNPR due to knowing her team was overly rambunctious. Whatever, there's no way out, let's just get this done with. Ren said as he took the book from Nora. Let's see, it's called Naruto the Sun God by FTTS, must be a pen name. Ren said as he looked at the cover of the book. It had a teenager with spiky blonde hair, blue eyes and are those whisker. He was wearing a black and orange hoodie with some type of band around his arm, with a metal plate and a spiral pattern carved on it. Around his neck was a pair of headphones. Momo likes what she sees. Yang said as a few of the other girls blushing as well looking at the cover. Well, Purra was blushing but not from the cover, but of the perverted thoughts of something along the lines of he kind of looks like John two Johns. Thought Purra. Well, start reading already. Momo wants to know more about this sexy man meat. Yang said as her teammates groaned at her pervy ways of talking. Okay Yang, I'll start reading. Just relax. Ren said as he opened the book. 8 teens in a forest. Those 8 teenagers were Lai Ren, Yang Xiaolong, Blake Belladonna, Nora Valkyrie, Purra Nikos, Ruby Rose, Weiss Schnee, and John Ark. These 8 teenagers were the last ones taking a test that would decide their placement at Beacon Academy. They had just got done fighting not only a giant Nevermore, but also an ancient Death Stalker, using guts, determination, luck, and a whole lot of teamwork. Most of them were exhausted already, so they were taking a rest before they started their way back towards the cliff that they had been launched off of. Hey, it's us. Hey us. Nora said as the TV screen showed them at the initiation exam before they were assigned as teams. How are we in this book? Weiss asked, but no one had an answer for her. So Ren went back to reading. Let's never do that again. John Ark spoke with a shiver as he thought about the last battle they partook in. That was not only the last battle they took together, but their first battle together and John's first battle period. He was a rather tall teen standing at 6 foot even, with a mop of messy blonde hair and bright blue eyes. He was wearing a black hoodie with a white chest plate over the front of it and ripped up blue jeans. He was lanky, not having so much muscle on him. That would have to change soon, considering the dream he was working towards. Haha, you really did, John, you look like you got some muscle now, but you looked scrawny for the first semester. Yang said as everyone nodded at that. I wasn't that scrawny guys, come on. John said as he pouted at always being the butt of the joke. At least you look better now, John. Purra said trying to cheer him up. It was kind of fun. Yang Xiaolong disagreed with the statement. She was a rather tall girl of 5'8", with long wavy blonde hair and lilac-colored eyes. She wore more revealing clothes, a yellow tube top that covered half of her very large chest and a small brown leather jacket over it. She had black hot pants on, short shorts, and long leather boots with long socks on. Around her wrists were wristlets, currently transformed into gauntlets. Man, I'm hot. Look at that rack. Yang said with a smug grin as she looked herself over on the TV. Wouldn't you say, fellas? Yang asked the males in the room. Ren just shrugged as if saying so. John looked away with a blush and Purra sent the buxom blonde a small glare. I hope dangerous things don't become a theme. Blake Belladonna, sitting next to Yang, thought to herself, not wanting to comment. She was 2 inches shorter than Yang was, but the black bow on her head more than made up for it. She had long black hair and slightly darker pale skin than Yang. Of the females, her pale skin was the darkest shade of pale. She had bright yellow eyes and wore a white mini top with a black piece around her waist and white shorts with black and purple stockings underneath them. She had a sheathed sword on her back, sheathed inside of a cleaver. Yes, described the Balabity. Yang said as Blake covered her face in a mix of shame that Yang was her partner and embarrassment that she was talking about her butt. What's the Balabity? John asked. Blake's blush grew and Yang's grin grew. That my dear boy is my partner's grade A, bounce a quarter off it, booty. Yang said, but John still looked confused. She's talking about Blake's butt, you dolt, now drop it. Why, said as she didn't want to hear or talk about her team asses. I am exhausted. Lai Ren, first name Ren, thought as he was bent over still. He was more muscular than John, but was several inches shorter than his fellow man. He had long black hair with a pink stripe and he wore a green Chinese top with markings on it, with long light pants and slightly bulges in his sleeves. Hey Ren, look, it's you. Nora said as she pointed at him on the TV. Yes Nora, now let's get back to the book. Ren said as Nora nodded. Next to him was Nora. She was 5'1" in height and was one of the smallest of the group. She had short bright orange hair and a shade of blue eyes. She was more moderate with her clothing, but she did have white top with a heart for her cleavage cut out and wore a bright pink skirt. She also had bright pink shoes on and had a silver grenade launcher in her hands. Now it's me. Nora shouted as everyone else took the advice Ren gave them months ago, just tune Nora out sometimes. I could fight maybe 2 or 6 more of those. It was fun, we should do this again. Great way to stay in shape. Nora spoke as she jogged in place next to the exhausted Ren. He seemed even more exhausted by comparison. I know, right? I wanted to find some more, but Ren said we had to get back to the beacon. Oh, I know, let's go look for some Deathstalkers after this. Nora said as she bounced in her seat while the rest of her team looked pale at the thought. Nora, no, just no. Ren told her with an internal sigh. Nora let out an "all man." The super hyper girl and the lazy boy with no energy. Yeah, but you know what they say, opposites attract. Yang said with a teasing grin as Ren sided her, well, the meaning of what she said flew past Nora's head. This is such a nice spot to rest. Beautiful ruins of an ancient society, wonderful forestry, and such a clear sky today. Wise Shni spoke peacefully, she couldn't always be angry, as she stared off, a few feet away from the group's general area. She was slightly taller than RWBY, her high heels added height she lacked, and she was the most petite of the group. She had a shorter white dress, with a blue coat over it and a blue ribbon on. Her weapon was a long rapier, and she had long white hair, blue eyes, and a scar over the left eye. Way to make the forest boring. Yang clapped at Y slowly, unamused at the statement from the girl. Now that I remember it, that was very boring sounding. Yang said as Weiss glared at the buxom blonde boxer. Y silently fumed to herself. Forgive me for adding culture to your life. Weiss stated to Yang, annoyed with the blonde-haired bimbo in her mind. Blonde what, Weiss? Did you call me a bimbo? Yang asked with red eyes due to the annoyance at the stereotype of blonde women. Nope, I didn't think that. Weiss said as she got a bit scared from the red-eyed glare. Good, you can get back to the story now, Ren. My partner and my sister don't get along. Just great. Ruby Rose thought as she palmed her face. She was the youngest of the group, but she was still an inch taller than Nora. She had deep dark red hair with the tips being visibly red. She was moon pale, though the only skin on her body visible was her head and hands. She didn't wear anything even slightly revealing. The black top with red frills on it, leading to a red and black skirt with more frills inside of it, and black stockings leading to black and red combat boots. Ah, Ruby, look how cute you look, so young and stupid. Yang said as she looked at her little sister's image on screen. Yang. That was just a few months ago. Ruby yelled at her sister with an rose blush on her face in embarrassment. Yeah, look how fast you grew. Soon you won't need your big sister Yang anymore. Yang bear hugged Ruby with faux tears streaming down her face. Let me go. Ruby yelled as she struggled to get out of her sister's grip until she broke free and moved to the other side of the couch. Next to her, stabbed into the ground, was a large red, black, and silver scythe that was very mechanical in nature. I miss you. Ruby said quietly, forced to remember that she was forcibly separated from her baby, her crescent rose. Though no one seemed to hear her. Can't we all get along? The last of the group asked, Nikos, a very tall tomato red-headed girl asked. She stood at 6 feet tall, again with heels on adding an inch to her height. She had it in a ponytail, and she was a bit more muscled but still feminine than the other girls. She wore revealing brown leather armor that didn't cover her cleavage, shoulders, or stomach, but she did have a bronze shield on her left arm and a red and bronze sword in her right hand. She had a brown skirt with a red hip cape and long armored legs. She does look beautiful, wouldn't you say, John? Nora asked her fearless leader, hoping they would get together and win her the betting pool. Yeah, she does look great. Why are you asking me? I thought it was common knowledge. John asked Nora, wondering why she was asking him, and missed the smile and blush of his partner. No, not with her. Yang and Weiss stated to each other dully before Yang grinned and Weiss looked away in annoyance. Weiss and Yang shared a look. Well, they learned to work together, they wouldn't hang out if they didn't had to, their personalities were too far apart from each other. People? Nora screamed out. Like fucking magic, several people appeared in front of them. Hey, that didn't happen. Also, how did they do that? Was it magic? Nora said as she looked around the room, hoping someone would agree with her. Nora, we have to read to find out. Ren said as he went back to reading. Ah. John shouted in shock when he saw the people appear right in the middle of their group. Wait, that scream in the forest was you. Ahahaha. You scream like a girl. Yang laughed as she held her sides as John had a small rain cloud over his head. The first was a nearly naked man whose skin was cracking, with part of his body being pure white, as was his hair, and he had 2 red eyes with strange designs to them. His body was visibly turning into dust. He was only wearing pants, which was weird to everyone, but of course, him turning into dust was weirder. Holy crap, what is shishing watchled Guido? Ruby said too fast for anyone to understand. Ruby, we talked about this, deep breaths, then talk. Yang reminded her sister as Ruby took a few deep breaths to try to calm down. Okay, now what were you saying? Yang asked her sister. I was asking what is he, then I asked was he dying, then I asked should we do something. Ruby said as everyone looked to the screen as it showed in slow motion the odd-looking man turning into dust, not the useful kind. Ruby, this is a book, we can't do anything for him. Yang said as she tried to get her sister back to reality where they fought soulless monsters and people turning into dust didn't happen. Right, go on, Ren. Ruby said as she looked at the teen in green, so to let him read. Innocence. Kakashi Haddock spoke as he looked at the innocent people, speaking in a different language as he commented. He was standing nearby and he had whitish hair with black eyes and a mask covering most of his face. He had a blue and silver headband on with a leaf symbol and a scar over his left eye. He wore blue pants with a loose shirt and a green flask jacket with 2 recent slash marks over it. What language is he speaking? Remnant has had one unified language for almost 100 years now. Weiss asked, hoping anyone would know. I don't know, but it kind of sounds like the language my name came from, but no one seems to be able to remember its name. Yang said as she thought about her name. Here he was, watching his friend die, and now there were innocent people. Oh, that's so sad and very disturbing that we seem to be watching as a man lose his friend. Purra said as she looked at the screen trying to understand how he felt, but couldn't. She hasn't lost anyone yet. Standing nearby, slowly standing up, was a girl who looked worse for the wear, shoulder-length messy pink hair and bright green eyes. She was wearing a torn-up blue shirt and torn-up blue pants, with burn marks visible on her body. She had a purple diamond on her head and she looked towards the group of people. No fucking way her hair is naturally that color. Yang said as she couldn't accept that someone was born with bubblegum pink hair. Yang, you do remember what color Neptune's hair is, right? A bright blue, remember? Asked Blake as she remembered the only other person she met with such an outrageous hair color. And as I told you before, there is no way that's his real hair color. Yang replied, as well as not believing someone can't have bright blue hair. Leave Neptune out of this. Why said as she didn't want people to talk bad about the only decent guy she met since coming to Pekin. Not knowing why, John's raincloud grew in size and he let out a tiny, almost inaudible whimper. Why do I feel like someone sucker punched me? John thought as he felt a bit depressed for a reason he didn't even know. All of you, get out. Sakura shouted to the new people. So her name is Sakura, hey, isn't that a type of tree? Ruby asked Blake since she seemed to read a lot and know the most. Yes, they're a type of tree that sheds pink petals during summer, cherry blossoms, I believe they're called. Blake said as she avoided eye contact due to her only knowing that due to a 18-rated scene in the Ninjas in Love series. Hang on, mister, we can get help for you. Ruby shouted as she ran towards the dying man, and for the first time she noticed a godly figure standing behind him. He stood at about 5'5" and had peach-colored skin compared to everyone else. His hair glowed like it was made of sunlight and was spiked up with 2 horn-like spikes being longer. His eyes were gold itself, with cross-shaped pupils, and he had 3 black bars on his cheeks. He was wearing a black bodysuit that appeared to be made of black energy, and he had a golden open jacket made of the pure energy, as well as golden sandals and a golden headband. He had 5 floating orbs behind his back and his hand was on Obito's back. Hey, it's the guy on the cover, but glowing. I want to glow. Ren, how do I glow? Nora said as she wanted to glow bright pink and had cool-looking horns like this guy. Everyone seemed to have taken Ren's advice about toning it out, wanting to know more, also now knowing the strange-looking guy's name. Naruto. Now. A nearby teen, a black-haired and barely injured teen, shouted as he slashed at a woman with a lightning-covered sword. Ren was unable to finish the line as 2 squeals interrupted him. One coming from the weapon fanatic Rose and the other coming from his childhood friend. Oh, a lighting sword. So cool, I wonder how it works. Maybe the hilt has a lightning dust crystal powering it. Oh, I wonder if that makes the sword had high-frequency vibrations to increase the cutting power. I want one. Ruby nerded out and imagining what hers would look like, or better yet if she added a function like that to Crescent Rose when she got the chance. Oh, cool lighting. Hey Rennie, you think I might be able to do something like that with my hammer? Nora asked as she imagined blowing stuff with an electrified hammer grenade launcher. I don't know, Nora, you can try when this is over. He had 1 red eye similar to the dying man and a purple ringed eye with symbols around the rings. He wore a normal clothes compared to Naruto. Haha, his hair looks like a duck butt. Yang said as she got a better look at the odd-eyed teen's hairstyle. Haha, dose. Ruby giggled seeing it after Yang pointed it out. I have to heal Obito. Sakura, Kakashi, gets these people out of here. Naruto shouted to his allies and the woman who dodged Sasuke's attack flew into the air. How is she flying and what does she look like? All we see is a blur. Y said as the person the ones trying to protect them was blurry, almost as if they couldn't see her till she was described to them. What is going on here? Y shouted out and the woman looked towards them. She was tall, with long, unrealistically long white hair, with pale skin. Her eyes were pure white, no pupil, and she wore a long white and black kimono. She had rabbit horns on her head and a red eye in the middle of her forehead. She looks good but unworldly at the same time. The only thing off-putting is her horns and third eye. Blake said, getting a good look at the rabbit ear horned woman. Coming out of her sleeve was a black sludge creature with eyes and sharp teeth. Ew, that's nasty. Ruby said as she looked at the slug with a face. Wait, how is that not staining her white kimono? Ruby asked as she turned to Weiss, hoping for the white team member to give an answer. Why are you looking at me? Weiss asked as she noticed her idiotic team leader was staring at her. You wear nothing but white and light blue too. I thought you know some way to prevent stains. RWBY said as Weiss just let out a smirk. Shni family secret. Was all she said before she motioned for Ren to start reading again. Naruto, I'm dying, go help Sasuke, after all. You know once this bone pierces your body, there is no saving you. Obito told Naruto, who nodded with tears in his eyes. Everyone looked sad at that, even if he was fictional it was sad he was dying. Naruto floated in the air and flew faster than any of the teenagers could see, his body just vanishing as he appeared in front of the woman. He can fly too? John asked as he looked at the glowing blonde on the screen. With Naruto's healing stopped, Obito instantly turned into dust moments later, with a grim smile on his face. The more immature people in the room teared up a little, so basically John, RWBY and Nora. He died? RWBY asked with wide eyes, horrified at what she had just witnessed. She was staring at the pile of ash on the ground, unsure of how to react to a man just turning to dust in front of her. RWBY, we have got to go. This isn't our situation. Yang shouted when a shockwave destroyed the nearby ruins. What sounded like a huge explosion went off and everyone looked into the sky. Yang, how could you? Someone just died, we have to help them. RWBY told her sister, believing that it was their duty as HUNTRESSES in training to help whoever they can. RWBY, we don't know them. Not to mention we were tired after the Nevermore fight, we couldn't have helped if we tried. Not to mention the Kakashi guy had to protect us, if we were there we might have been a liability rather than useful. Yang told her sister, who looked down at that. Kagaya. Naruto shouted as he created a giant, house-sized fist of chakra and slammed it into Kagaya's giant blue chakra fist. Holy crap, how much aura would it to do something like that? John asked Ren, the person who used the most aura techniques. More than the average hunter can produce at one time if my estimates are right. Ren said as he tried to annualize the giant energy fist technique. Wait, what's chakra? Purah asked as she caught the word. It was once thought of the energy from both the psychical body and the spiritual side. Most who have heard of believe it was what earlier people thought of aura from before the kingdoms came into being. Nora said, surprising everyone that she was doing something useful in an intellectual conversation. Everyone looked to Ren hoping for an explanation. As surprising as it is, since we were kids one of Nora's favorite classes was history. I think it's all the wars, but I could be wrong. Ren explained Nora's knowledge on the subject. Their giant fists collided and created huge shockwaves and started to destroy the forest and ruins they were surrounded by. Kakashi crossed his fingers and created several clones of himself, each of them jumping in front of one of the teens and shielding them from the shockwaves with his body, sticking to the ground with chakra. Sakura grabbed the ground to avoid getting pushed back. Holy shit. Yang said as that was the only thing that came to mind as she saw the two giant fists clash and the shockwave that was created from it. We are going to die together after all, just like the blonde girl said. Nora shouted when a mountain started to fall out of the sky towards them. Really, well, I am proud of my luscious hair, I like when people call me my name. Yang said to Nora as she gave her a light glare. Hehe, sorry Yang, but I didn't really know you at the time. Nora apologized as she did feel slightly bad about that. Sakura, mountain alert. Kakashi told Sakura and she stood up and jumped over 100 meters into the air. Purple markings spread over her face and her fist glowed blue. The 8 teenagers were shocked when she punched the mountain and shattered it into millions of pieces. Even the pinky could beat the living shit out of me. Yang said, slightly out of it. She was always very proud of her natural and to many other natural strength, but to find that the pink-haired one could probably send her flying with one flick of her finger put a cold bucket of water on her touring pride. The shockwaves were still coming. Giant fists were flying faster than the eye could see, Naruto and Kagaya were colliding at super extreme speeds. All their fists were blurs at this point, not even that, their blows were invisible to anyone who couldn't see or sense things at the speed of light itself. They tried to see what was happening on the screen, but all they could see is what was described to them, nothing. I feel sad now. RWBY said as the same with her sister, she had great amount of pride in her psychical prowess, but for her it was speed, but even she could see small flashes of their colors clashing and then disappearing. Sasuke fell from the sky behind Kagaya and he pointed his hand towards her and he looked at Naruto. In a second, he teleported Naruto to right in front of Kagaya and Naruto extended his hand towards Kagaya as well. Mother. She's that thing's mother. Both teams shouted in unison as the fact that something like that sludge was her child. Kagaya opened up a black portal and used it to teleport away from Naruto and Sasuke, appearing up high in the sky. Then all of the teleport. I mean, how, just how? Yang said as she looked at Kagaya back into the black portal and appeared in the sky and remembered that they all seemed to have that powers. This level of battle is unreal. Purah thought with wide eyes as she watched these gods battle it out. The woman raised her arms up and huge black portal appeared in the sky, leading to possibly another dimension. A moon started to fall out of the sky. The actual fuck? Weiss yelled as she watched a moon fall from the black portal, a whole moon. Remnant didn't have one, just a broken one that no one knew how to broke. The world is going to die at this rate. Ren shouted out, the booms of shockwaves making it harder for the others to hear him. Who gives a shit about the world right now, Ren? Worry about ourselves. John said as he looked freaked out as he saw the battle and moon dropping. Battling mother is futile if you have to defend this world. The black sludge taunted Naruto and Sasuke. Naruto raised a hand above his head. A small black orb with 4 large spinning blades coming out of it appeared in his hand. He threw it into the air and it flew at an amazing rate. Before the moon could fall any further, the small attack hit it and dug its way into the core of the moon. The moon started to gain glowing cracks on it before it exploded. The shockwave was felt for hundreds of miles and the planet was shaking from the shockwave of the explosion. Okay, he is a god. The title is Naruto the Sun God, so that means he is the sun god in this story. Blake said as she put 2 and 2 together and came to the conclusion that he was a god. The others nodded at that sound reasoning. What she didn't say was that she set up a tiny shrine in case he is an actual god. I'll defeat you and protect this world at the same time. Naruto declared boldly as he crossed his fingers in front of him. Sasuke, get out of the sky. I'm going to blast away Kagaya and the moon fragments at the same time. Naruto shouted to his own partner and Sasuke formed a mountain-sized purple chakra being around himself. With huge wings, he flew towards the ground and slammed into it with enough force to destroy the rest of the forest and put a huge crater in it. These people are crazy strong. Yang thought as she dropped to her knees, horrified as she witnessed her own possible death many times in a row now. We can't even begin to try and help them. RWBY thought, horrified at the prospect of being unable to help people. The man protecting them from the shockwaves had his clones vanish and he fell to his knees in exhaustion, already exhausted from earlier battle. Yang and RWBY unconsciously held onto one another in hopes of comfort for their others. Ren, what do we do? Nora desperately asked her longtime friend. I don't know. Ren stated and Kakashi sent them all an eye smile when he saw their worry. He couldn't speak their language but he didn't need to. Don't worry, I won't let any of you die here. Kakashi told them and none of them felt even slightly safer for it. They didn't understand his words either, it would seem, which didn't help him make them feel safe. They weren't really safe. Oh no shit. Sherlock. Our others are going to die. Nora yelled as she and the others had really gotten into the book even if they're only on the first chapter. Kurama. Naruto shouted out loudly and golden energy gushed out of his body. All around him and even on the ground, a fox that stood many times taller than mountains, made out of pure golden energy with black markings, appeared. The fox had huge energy tails and had a more humanoid look to it in the hands and chest. On it. Kurama responded to Naruto. That's a big fox. Purah said as she looked at the giant golden fox. No, that's a Kyuubi. Ren said as the other were giving him a look of WTF are you talking about? In our home village there is a myth that a fox that grows 9 tails becomes immortal and godlike. 2 clones of Naruto appeared and those 2 clones formed their own Kurama avatars as well. All of them started to fuse together until a Kurama with 3 faces and 6 arms appeared. They each all started to form attacks. The right arms formed a giant version of the attack they saw earlier, while the left arms formed a different but similar attack. This one looked like the middle sphere was made out of blades of wind itself, spinning and swirling endlessly. That is awesome. Nora said as she looked at the 3-headed 6-armed Kyuubi. It does look amazing. Purah said as she looked at the Kyuubi. The moon fragments were drawn closer to the ground. 6 paths. Massive Rasen Shuriken. Naruto shouted out and he let both attacks fly into orbit. The attacks collided together in front of Kagaya and the moon fragments. The entire planet was shaking under the might of an explosion that formed a massive moon-sized ball of flames, winds, and raw orange explosive energy. None of the teens could keep on their feet, having taken to being on their butts on the ground. Sasuke's energy avatar was shattered under the might of the attack, being right under it. Thankfully, it was high enough in orbit that the planet wasn't actually damaged by this attack. A black portal opened up and Kagaya with a single burned sleeve appeared out of it and the attack in orbit formed a huge black vortex, a black hole that sucked all of the attack energy into itself. Naruto stared at the black hole before he made it vanish, since it was made from his own chakra he could control it. He made a black hole. RWBY yelled as she knew quite a bit of science and physics from being weapon fanatic. Kagaya opened a portal and a river of acid started to rain down on Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, and all of the natives of the world they were in. Sasuke teleported himself out of the way, leaving the others to die. That Dutch left us to die. Yang yelled as the other only gaped at that he left them to die. That asshole left us. Yang shouted, but the river of acid started to grow closer to them. When it was mere feet away from them, Naruto appeared in front of the group. Oil release. Unrivaled strength. Naruto shouted out and steam started to gush out of his skin and shoot up into the river of acid. The second it touched the superheated steam, it boiled and turned into steam. Naruto's steam pushed the acid mist high into the sky, preventing it from touching any of the people he was protecting, while also diluting it heavily. "Oh, thank Monty." Purah said as she looked at the team keeping them alive. "Don't you mean thank Naruto?" Yang said as she realized she hadn't told a joke in a while. Everyone rolled their eyes at the pun. "Thank you, Mr. RWBY," thanked Naruto loudly from where she was sitting, and Naruto looked back at them. He gave them a thumbs up. "Ought to think of a way to seal her," Naruto thought as he looked up to Kagaya. If only he could draw out the chakra of the tailed beasts inside of her to try and weaken her first. Naruto blinked before he crossed his fingers and formed 8 clones around him. "Guys, I need chakra," Naruto thought as he and his clones flew into the air. "How did we need to run away, but we can't run without getting caught in an explosion." Blake muttered as she looked around, trying to think of a way to run away from these dangerous people. "I agree, our others should get out of there," Blake said as she didn't want to see herself or her teammates and friends die from an attack one of them might not block. "Nobody should wield enough power to destroy the planet at the group of ahead. Give up, Naruto, and allow Mother to absorb you, or would you rather end up like that Insectabito?" The sludge spoke, and Naruto became visible pissed off. "Don't you?" Naruto shouted out, and he vanished in a blur of speed so fast that not even Kagaya was able to keep up with him. The next thing she knew, her left arm was missing off of her body, and she was gushing blood. Naruto had gotten into her guard and cut her arm off with his hand, glaring at her as he did so. Insultabito, not when he changed himself for the better. Naruto stated with his eyes showing a calm, murderous rage, as he mutilated Kagaya's body with relative ease. Kagaya's arm landed on the ground nearby the teens. Both teams looked out of it from the brutality of that action. Yang knew what she needed to do to lighten the mood. Wow, you can say that she was really disarmed. With that she put on her sunglasses and Nora screamed. Yeah. Everyone gave the 2 blank looks. Black Zetsu in the sleeve of the arm grinned when he looked at the weak teenagers that he could possess and use as hostages. Kakashi formed lighting around his hand and pointed his hand towards Kagaya's severed arm. "Oh crap baskets, I don't want to be possessed by that sludge," RWBY yelled as she hugged Yang again. "Raiden. Raijutsuga," Kakashi called out as he shot out a blue beast made out of lighting that started to run towards Black Zetsu. Black Zetsu was hit by the attack, but he absorbed the chakra in it, leaving himself unhurt. "Nice try," but the sludge started before a fist smashed into his body from Sakura and the ground craters as he was oushed deep into the ground. "Naruto, Sasuke-kun. You can do it," Sakura shouted up at the teens in the air. Kagaya was punched in the jaw by Naruto, sending her high above the clouds. Naruto and his clones formed attacks above their heads, while Sasuke waited for the right time to strike and seal Kagaya away, while also conserving his strength for when he would really need it later. "You know we can. You think you are the start of shinobi history. Well, this is the end of the start," Naruto shouted out as he and his clones all formed their own Rasen shurikens, but with different elements to them. Sand, blue flames, water, lava, steam, acid, insect dust, ink, and pure wind. Sage art. Super-tailed beast Rasen shuriken. How do those elements even mix? Weiss asked, but no one answered, too engrossed in the moment to pay attention. But that, Kagaya was stunned as the orbs went flying towards her. She raised her hand up to try and absorb as much of the damage that she could. When the explosion went off, the entire sky was filled with nothing but explosions. The entire planet felt the force of it without even touching the planet. The visible shockwaves extended of many thousands of miles, causing earthquakes where they extended. "How are others still alive?" John said as he got the same answer Weiss did earlier. "Using elements without dust. What are these people?" Weiss shouted when she saw the nonchalant use of so many elements. "Because they're gods." Nora screamed as if that was an explanation for everything. "These people are gods." Nora shouted out with shock in her eyes. That was the only explanation she had, that they were now witnessing the battles of good and evil gods who had fallen to remnant. It was obvious who the good one and the evil one was. The people around them were obviously the devoted servants of the sun god. The sun god wanted to defend remnant while the moon goddess woman wanted to destroy it and all of them. That was the only explanation she had. "Well, I don't have anything to counter that logic, I guess." Wai said as she had nothing she can say that to prove that wrong. Kagaya smashed into the ground, heavily wounded from the attack as it faded away nearly as soon as it had appeared. "Huh?" Purah asked Nora in surprise and she pointed in the distance. Protecting Beacon Academy was a giant fox avatar. Protecting Vale was another giant fox avatar. There were giant avatars protecting any and all people within range of the battle, so it was obvious who the good being of mass destruction was. The one who was spending his energy protecting them. Haha, even more evidence. Nora shouted happily. It wasn't often when she was right, so she wanted to live it up as much as possible. "Naruto. Now." Sasuke shouted as he teleported Kagaya back into the air as his skin started to bulge at different places and she started to transform. In her confused and angered state, she barely even registered as Naruto and Sasuke went towards her. Naruto and Sasuke simply touched Kagaya. The ground started to lift high into the air. Kagaya's third eye gained a white sun and black moon in it and her body continued to transform, but this time energy beings started to leak out of her body. She was sent flying into the sky while Naruto crossed his fingers and formed 1000s of shadow clones. "That's a lot of clones," John said as he saw just a sea of sun gods. All of the clones went flying towards different directions and a giant hole started to open up in the ground as Kagaya went into orbit. A new moon was forming and Naruto was preventing the moon from taking any human lives with it. His clones limited how much of the planet Kagaya was taking. "He's trading her in a moon," Yang yelled as she saw the sealing take place. "Ah." The teens started to scream when they started to go flying through the air as well, and the people started to run at supersonic speeds to escape the range of the gravity force. "Well, I guess that is how our others die," Blake said as she looked at the new moon forming. Naruto appeared in front of the 8 teens and he formed 9 tails of chakra out of the back of his coat and wrapped them around them. Naruto started to fly away with them out of the range of the new moon forming. Naruto landed in front of a giant school that one of his fox avatars was currently protecting with a barrier made from its tails. Naruto set down the teenagers and flew off. He had to make sure Black Zetsu was sealed as well. "Yes, praise the sun god. For he saved us." Nora yelled as she pulled a flag out of nowhere that was golden and had black letters saying, "Let him be praised." "Where did she get that?" John asked Ren hoping he would know. Nora for some reason has a few flags with her, for Monty only knows what. Ren told him as they took a glance to the orange-haired girl. Sasuke, Sakura and Kakashi appeared in front of the school as well, and so did 9 mountain-sized creatures. Giant tails from the glowing fox prevented anyone from leaving the school to try and foolishly fight the tailed beasts. "I don't think anyone in school is that stupid," Ruby said as she remembered Cardin's team. "Maybe. I think. But Naruto. Gotta put it into orbit in a way that it doesn't ever collide with that other moon," Naruto said to himself as he controlled where the new moon went into orbit at. Naruto was in space with the moon, making sure that the other moon and this one didn't collide. "He's able to survive in space and control the moon for he is God," Nora shouted as she somehow put black lines on her face like Naruto's. Kagaya's prison was already finished and there was a very deep hole in the ground where a forest once stood and many miles away from that forest. Thanks to Naruto's clones, he had been able to prevent it from spreading too far, instead, the hole was just super deep. But the group. "I will serve your mighty god, O messengers of the sun god." Nora spoke as she bowed down in front of the 3 remaining ninja, who looked at the girl with dull eyes. They had no clue what she had just said. "Oh no, I can't speak to the god's messengers. I fail a worshipper," Nora said as she seemed to grow her own depressed cloud equaling the size of John's. A giant fox familiar to the glowing orange fox looked towards the other tailed beasts. "Let's go find Naruto before the old man uses the summoning jutsu," Kurama stated to his siblings and they were about to leave before Naruto appeared on the ground in front of them. Kurama blinked but shrugged his shoulders. "Less looking for him." Kurama blinked and he palmed his face before he started to run towards the giant crater anyway. The other tailed beasts started to do the same thing because moments later Sasuke, Naruto, Sakura and Kakashi vanished in puffs of smoke. The tailed beasts managed to avoid being summoned by the jutsu just in time though. "So now we had giant beasts in that world now?" Blake asked feeling a bit scared at that. "Where did the hot sun god go? I can do without the ass who left us to die, but hot eye sun god was awesome," Yang stated as she and all of the confused teenagers looked to where the powerful people had just been standing. "Yeah, the sun god was great eye candy," Yang said as she had no problem admitting she thought he was hot. "What just happened? How did the school not get destroyed? How is Vela not destroyed? Only the emerald forest is gone," Y said with wide eyes as she looked into the distance where there was a huge, deep hole in the ground. It was so deep that all a person could see if they looked into it was blackness. "Super hot eye sun god protected everyone, Doug, keep up," Nora told Weiss with arms crossed in front of her chest. "Doug? Did you call me Doug? Why Doug?" Weiss asked Nora. She wasn't even all that upset, just confused. "You kinda look like a Doug to me," Nora said as Weiss just gave up trying to understand Nora's thought process. "I don't think he was a god," John pointed out, mostly because he didn't want to make assumptions, though he found it hard to believe a human could have that much power. It was frightening. "First off, of course he's a god, and second off, yes it is," Yang said as she was converted to Narutoism over this chapter. "John, he was glowing, he made the planet shake, he destroyed a moon, I think he is a god," Pura pointed out to her partner because it made sense. Nora might be crazy, but there was no way a human could ever have that much power. The man had controlled the elements with ease, formed giant avatars and combined them. He had done things humanly impossible, even for the strongest of huntsmen. He couldn't be a human. She wouldn't be surprised if a few cult wasn't going to form because of this. Yes, all hail the sun god, for he is a Hatai. Yang and Nora yelled as they were starting the cult when they got out of this place. I am thankful we didn't die. Ren spoke as he collapsed on his butt, simply happy that they were all alive. I don't know about you guys, but I think we should be thankful we got protected. RWBY pointed out with a sigh of relief. Definitely. At least our others are alive. Y said as the non-cultists nodded in agreement. Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, where did you guys go? The sun god's, Naruto's, voice was heard moments later and they all saw Naruto floating down towards them. This Naruto had black balls floating behind his back and he had a raised eyebrow. For some reason, Naruto had just sensed his clone and his friend's chakra just vanish. Naruto's feet touched the ground and he heard a voice inside of his head. They were summoned back to your world, sadly, that means you are stuck here. Kurama stated to Naruto inside of his head. Naruto blinked a few times. Our god shall walk amongst the mortals. Nora and Yang shouted. As Ren was coming close to an outburst due to all the interruptions. Oh might super hot mega deluxe sun god. Please accept my most humble of thanks. Yang shouted out as she bowed to Naruto and Nora joined her. Yes, thank you for sparing out world Mr. Epic Super Hot Mega Deluxe Supreme Sun God. Nora spoke, adding more onto the title, trying to please the sun god. What is up with these people? They speak a weird language and I still sense the other tailed beasts. What is up with that? Naruto spoke out loud as he talked with Kurama. They avoided being summoned to stay with you. My other half is waiting to be recombined with me and sealed with you. The others will find new places to live. Kurama told Naruto and Naruto noticed more people starting to gather around him. These tailed beasts must be parts of him took and gave life to form them. Yang said almost correct, just replace Naruto with his great alien Gramps. See, totally a god, he speaks some strange language. Nora whispered to the others and Naruto sighed. Time to do what Killer Bee taught him. Naruto walked towards the ground and he looked towards Purah and extended his fist out to her. Killer Bee and he could read people's hearts and memories by bumping fists. Naruto would read this girl's heart and her memories and learn their language, that way he could talk with them. He has chosen to open his heart to Purah, prepare her for her wedding. Nora shouted as they got up and walked to Purah, who was hiding behind her crush. They were close till they both were hit upside the head with the book by Ren. Sit down or I'm not reading anymore. Ren threatened as the seemingly teleported to their seats. He chose you? RWBY shouted as she hid behind Weiss. They were all surprised when Naruto powered down back to his base form. His clothes were replaced with mortal clothing, a black and orange jacket that was currently ripped wide open, showing extremely well-toned muscles that no normal man of his size should have. His hair turned from golden energy into blonde hair and his golden eyes turned bright blue. His bar marks turned into whisker marks and he looked towards Purah with expectant eyes. So he prefers a faunus form. Blake said with a bit of pride at the apparent god choking to look like one of her race. As Weiss rolled her eyes at Blake. Bump his fist already. Don't anger Mr. Epic Amazing Super Hot Mega Deluxe Supreme Master Sun God. John whispered to Purah urgently and she was nervous as hell. She had been chosen, but for what? To be his bride. Nora whispered to herself, scared Ren would stop reading her new Bible. He is super hot, even in mortal form. Yang thought with wide eyes and a dropped jaw at how hot the sun god was in human form. Faunus form you mean? Blake said as the others joined Weiss on rolling their eyes. Here she thought he looked hot when he was covered in energy flames, but now, he was still super hot. I have prepared a sacrifice for you, to appease you. Nora said as she showed a gagged Weiss, who was glaring daggers at Nora. Naruto walked over to Yang and extended his fist towards her this time. Nora, don't you dare. Weiss said as she saw Nora scooting over to her. Fine, but he will get his sacrifice. Nora pouted as she sat back down. Yang suddenly felt extremely nervous like Purah, but she reached out with her hand and bumped her fist to his. In a second, Naruto blinked and with his chakra, he received an amazing amount of information, only his experience with getting clone memories helping him get this all at the same time. Hello, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. Nice to meet you all, can I get something to eat? I haven't eaten or had anything to drink in days now. Naruto asked them with a grin on his face. No, I was wrong, pancakes are not the food of the gods. Nora yelled as she fell to her knees in despair. Most people would get super depressed if they were stranded in another dimension, not Naruto. He had learned long ago not to be so depressed over stuff like this. Everyone else on the other hand was floored. How had he learned an entire language in moments? Okay, I'm done. Who wants to read the next chapter? Ren asked. Blake raised her hand and was given the book. Also wait for a bit, we should get something from the fridge to eat, I think we were asleep for a while and missed dinner and lunch. Ren said, and as soon as he did everyone's stomachs growled and added a mini fridge. Ah, now that was good. Blake said as she finished a can of tuna. You guys finished with your food? Blake asked the two teams. Almost everyone else ate energy bars. Along with the water and a few tuna cans, there was nothing else. Yeah, I think we're good. Let's get back to the book. RWBY said as they moved the trash from mini fridge into a corner. Okay, let's see chapter 2, The Sun's Kindness. Way to go, clone me, you beat that bastard. Naruto thought as he got his cross-dimensional clone's memories, the same when he got the memories of that clone getting turned into ash by Kagaya. The clone's memory trick even crossed dimensions, which was awesome, but sadly, Naruto realized that as long as he and Sasuke existed, the Sage of Six Paths couldn't replenish his chakra, he was dead after all, meaning that he couldn't try and summon Naruto back. The Sage of Six Paths must be the king of the gods who perished, and his soul transferred his powers to the epic sun god and guy with a duck butt haircut. Nora yelled as she semi-understood why Naruto was stuck on Remnant. It took nearly all of the Kage in history to have enough chakra to summon them back, meaning that sadly a reverse summon with the toads would not work. What are the Kages? RWBY asked, having no idea what they are. Maybe they're the best fighters the land of the gods has, or maybe they're leaders. Purah said as she tried to think of what they could be. Naruto had enough chakra to summon them, but they didn't have enough to summon him, seeing as even all of the toads combined didn't have as much chakra as a tailed beast, and the third Raikage alone had that much chakra, and he had been part of the summoning team to summon them. That's actually pretty sad. RWBY thought as she tried to imagine being ripped away from all your friends and family simply by a mistake when trying to help people. Okay, I think the Kages are positions from where he's from. From what he said, there was a third Raikage. That might mean the title is passed down. Ren said as he tried to make sense of the things that don't exist in his world. Stupid clone, being in the wrong place at the right time, and the Sage of Six Paths for mistaking the clone for the original when the summoning jutsu was used. Oh well, beating himself up over it did him no good, he would remain cheerful and sulk when nobody else was around. Yes, after all, no one wants to deal with sulking blondes. Y said as she remembered when John and the rare times Yang sulked, both are just annoying to deal with for mutable reasons. John because the tiny amount of guilt she felt since a lot of the time she was the one she made him sulk. As for Yang, she goes clubbing when sad and hits the booze harder, no one like a drunk call at 1 AM in the morning for either bail money or to pick her up. Surprisingly, Yang makes sure to not drive drunk. Weiss didn't notice the effect her words had on the blondes though, Yang was sending her a small glare while John's rain cloud came back. So Lord Sun God, is this to your liking? The headmaster of the school asked as food was placed in front of Naruto. The man, named Ozpin as Naruto learned from the memories of others, was a tall as fuck man at like 6'6", seriously the people of this world were tall. That being said, the man was in his later years, grayed out hair, and walking with a cane. Wearing a dark green suit and generally giving off the aura of a man who knew a lot of stuff. Guys, I think this is the first time I have ever seen him without his coffee. RWBY said as her slightly ADHD-riddled mind jumped to that when her headmaster came on screen. Everyone took a moment to look at the screen. It is odd, I'll admit. Blake said as she had never seen Ozpin without his cup of caffeine nearby, not even in photos in newspapers or TV interviews. He had insisted to talk with Naruto alone and had the food bought his office so that he could talk with Naruto in private. Good job, headmaster. Please the sun god. Nora said as what he was doing made sense to her. Want to make someone happy? Give them good food. Want to interrogate someone? Give them good food to make them drop their guard. Want to make someone your friend? Don't just give them food, give them pancakes. Want to have fun, blow stuff up. Lord Sun God. Don't call me that, I have a name, call me Naruto. Naruto stated with a bored tone. He had attempted to get people to stop thinking of him as a god, didn't work, and it annoyed him. First he was considered a demon early in life, and now people in a different dimension were calling him a god. Wait, so he isn't a god? He's just superpowered guy from a different dimension. Yang said with a tiny bit of despair as she lost faith in Narutoism. No, I refuse to believe it. He is a god. Nora said as she really didn't want to admit she was wrong for the 900th time this year. Nora, please calm down, he just said he isn't a god. Ren said as he massaged his temples due to the future headache this was sure to cause. Oh guys, does this mean a teenager has the power to destroy the world? John asks as remembered how scary it felt believing one person, a fellow teenager, has the power to choose should both Franus and humans live or die. Don't worry John, from what little we know of him he is a good guy, so I don't think he will misuse his powers. Purah said as she placed her hand on her crush's shoulder trying to comfort him. Naruto couldn't even claim to be human by their standards. Yes, standards. It's all a matter of perspective. Just because he's not a god by his standards of his world doesn't mean he's not in ours. Nora said as she latched onto that idea like a sloth to a tree. He had Kurama messing with his genetics when he was in his mother's womb, giving him his birthmarks and most likely changing his DNA a little. He wondered if his kids would have whisker marks, and he was part fucking alien thanks to Kagaya. He was descended from her and she was an alien, thus he was part alien. Okay, so he's not a human, he's an alien with powers. Wait, that rabbit ear horned woman is related to him. Y said as she'd be terrified if they got along like family and decide to destroy them. I believe that is what he meant. Purra said as her skin turned ice pale as her thoughts went to the same conclusion as the heiress. His DNA in general was rather fucked up, no telling what a DNA test would call him. Lord Naruto, I am curious, what brings you to Remnant? Ozpin asked his starting question. Sealing an evil goddess, sorry about messing up your planet by the way, at least I was able to limit the damage also, sorry about the extra moon. I have a few clones out making sure the tides stay stable until they adjust. Naruto mentioned, seeing as he had clones all over the planet, making sure the presence of an extra moon didn't fuck anything up. He had the tailed beasts doing work as well, making sure everything was okay. Well, that's good. Blake muttered as she knew all the effects the moon even broken had on Remnant. Another could very well cause tsunamis, or if they ever hit each other could destroy a kingdom by the debris from the moons, or most worst of all, it could screw with the fishing industry and she would have to pay more money for her tuna. Isobu was with a team of Naruto clones in the sea working on the tides and underwater currents, changing the landscape underwater to give it a good system to work out. Ooh, that is a big turtle. Hopefully it can take a joke, Yang said as she gained a small smile, her team already knew what she was up to. Yang. Ruby began. Don't. Weiss continued. Even. Blake finished. Because it looks like he has a hard shell. Yang finished as her team sighed at their brawler's bad sense of humor. Team JNPR had a different reaction, both John and Purra didn't get it and shared a look clearly asking each other, what does that even mean? Bran just shook his head in disappointment at the pun. Nora, well, she was always a vocal person and so was her dislike of Yang's puns. Boo. You suck. If this was a comedy club, I would throw my drink at you. TCH. None one here has a good sense of humor. Yang said as she was used to her friends' reactions to her so hilarious puns. Ozpin had never thought that in his life he would meet a god, even more so such a humble god, so he was amazed at the kindness this one was showing. Nora was trying to say before Ren covered her mouth. Nora, please stop, you can get back to reading, Blake. Ren said as the cat Franus nodded and went back to reading. Thank you for taking the effort to defend this world. It must have made your job more difficult, is there anything I can do to thank you? Ozpin asked, and Naruto looked at the bones of the 7 well-cooked animals he had just eaten and the half-eaten animal he was still working on. If he could eat a fish the size of 20 grown men, this was nothing. Everyone except both Nora and Ren looked somewhat disgusted at the amount he was eating. Ren wasn't fazed due to him one time seeing Nora had eaten quite literally 3 times her body weight in a pancake eating contest and asked for more when she won. That is very unhealthy. Purra said as she knew that eating that much would usually cause forced vomit. Hey Rennie, doesn't that remind you of the contest I entered 2 years ago? Nora asked as she remembered the contest she won. She would have entered this year's, but they banned her for some reason. Well, I can't really return home, Naruto trailed off as he got lost in his own thoughts. Now that he thought about it, he really couldn't return home. Nobody was strong enough to summon him, and the only beings that were strong enough were the tailed beasts, and they were with him. The dead cage were returned to the dead, and the Sage of 6 Paths had finally moved on to the afterlife. After using up his chakra, without his chakra, he no longer existed beyond time or space and had faded away. Technically, his body was pure chakra, so without that his chakra faded, so no more Sage of 6 Paths to help anyway. So that's how gods die. Once they use up all of their energy, they are gone, like dust. Nora said as her mind compared the news about the sage's death to what she understood. Weiss on the other hand had another thought in mind when she heard that analogy. If I could learn to crystallize their energy, we might have another energy source besides dust. Weiss thought as she knew dust might be a finite resource, as did her father. They made sure to keep everything quiet about the need to develop alternative resources so the Schnee could keep in power when dust runs out. So this god was either banished or the seal he placed on the goddess took so much power he doesn't have a way to get home. Ozpin thought to himself as he looked at the teen in front of him with curious eyes. What? He had seen a rift in time and space open up and a fucking moon that was not originally there drop out of the sky and then this teen destroy it. The planet had been shaking non-stop thanks to those titans and now their world had 2 moons. They had a day moon and a night moon and they would more than likely had daily solar eclipses. Oh. That sounds cool. Ruby said as she would like to see solar eclipses. She might never seen one or a whole one anyway, there is always a tiny almost unnoticeable small moon chunk going past the sun. He had seen giant avatar foxes so large they towered over mountains, something he had never seen in his long life. If this man in front of him had the power to revive the dead, then Osborn would be convinced completely and utterly that he was a god. Osborn blinked. Well, looks like the headmaster wants someone revived, I wonder who it is. John asked as he looked to his partner, for some reason seemed to try to avoid eye contact. Maybe an old flame. Yang guessed as she had no idea. Osborn wasn't a public man. Besides, for some stuff in public records there wasn't much really known about the old headmaster. This is good food, I like it. Too bad it isn't ramen, now that would be awesome. Right now, got something on your mind? Naruto asked as he looked at Osborn with a raised eyebrow, and the man shook his head. Do you have healing powers, Lord Naruto? Osborn asked with a serious look in his eyes. So he does want someone revived. Man, imagine what you would do with that power. Yang said as she knew who she would revive, Ruby's mother, the woman who raised her like she was her own summer rose. Weiss knew who she would revive, uncles and cousins who died from the White Fang attacks. Blake had to think for a moment of who she would want back. She was an orphan, so for as far as she knew her parents might still be alive, so they were out, maybe some of the Fang members who died on dust raids, or the old peaceful leader to try to get the Fang on the right track again. I can restore missing organs, restore life force, and I can bring the dead back, provided they haven't been dead too long. Naruto stated thoughtfully. He had brought back Obito after the man had died once, in the lava world he had been dead when Naruto revived him the first time. Of course, seeing as Obito had been in such bad condition, he was doomed to die again anyway. He was a Jinchuriki and lost his tailed beast. Naruto's revive the dead powers were not perfect. He wasn't like Chio, who could revive a dead Jinchuriki and let them stay alive without their tailed beast. Osborn's eyes widened for a second, his only showing of emotion in this scenario. Okay, he was convinced this guy was a god. Yes, Headmaster Osborn has been converted to the Narutoism. Nora yelled as she nodded at her own comment. I wonder if I can convince Osborn to build a chapel on campus. Nora asked Ren as she saw herself walking through her chapel in robes or orange and black, with a PAPAL Pope's hat, with a red spiral on its center. Nora, I don't think he will allow it. Ren said as Nora pouted at his response. Lord Naruto, would it be too much to beg for a favor? I ask that you revive a dying comrade of mine. She had been gravely hurt and her life is in critical. Osborn started and Naruto blinked before he grinned. Sure, no problem. Just take me to her, I can fix her right up. Naruto stated before Osborn could finish what he had been saying. He was more than happy to help people in need, it was mostly what he lived for. They were kind enough to feed him what appeared to be a lot of food, so he would be more than happy to help them. Is it that dying girl I sensed underneath this school? Naruto asked Osborn, who was stunned. Wait, there's a dying girl under the school? John asked as he looked around the room trying to see if anyone knew if it was the same in his universe. Everyone except Purah looked a bit off at the information. Purah couldn't meet his eyes. I wonder why she won't make eye contact. Wait, it's probably the same with how she deals with her problems and emotions and hiding them. John thought as his Spartan partner usually tried to hide unpleasant emotions or her problems. Like that time we watched that horror movie, she was terrified, guessing on how strongly she was holding my arm, not to mention she didn't make any eye contact when she did that either. John thought with a nod. How had Naruto sensed her? Oh right, God. Yes. Osborn answered truthfully. Well, looks like we are going to learn more about our mysterious headmaster. Ren said as he was always a little curious about the man ever since he made John the leader. Don't get him wrong, John was an okay leader, but he lacked the skill to even get into a early combat school in the beginning in the year until Purah started training him. Ren just didn't say anything as he felt he needed more male friends, and since John was the only other non-asshole male of his year, Ren didn't want to insult the blonde leader. Knew it. Naruto spoke with a smirk. When he was in Six Paths Age mode, his sensing ability was pushed to the absolute limits. He could sense things that existed in other dimensions, he could sense nearly everything in the universe all at the same time, and he could sense things that existed in their own little dimensions like limbo. Nothing could escape his Six Paths Age mode sensing ability. Just take a clone of me, he'll fix her right up. I'm going to walk around, take in the sights. Naruto stated as he formed a clone next to him, appearing in a puff of smoke. Since you are unable to return home, why don't you make Beacon your home? I'm sure it could never be as glamorous as your original home, but arrangements could be made. Osborn offered Naruto a home. I wonder where he used to live. He is expediently strong, so it must have been amazing, right? Ruby asked as she imagined what his home would be like. That is not always the case, Ruby. Blake said as she saw that strength usually meant needing to give up time for other things, such as house cleaning. Adam's old apartment was so bad that both humans and fellow Franus joked that instead of a bull he was a boar due to him living in pigsty. When Osborn figured Naruto's home, he pictured Naruto having a castle of gold, filled with millions of servants attending to all his needs. He pictured a world of gods, each of them controlling different sections of the universe. As the sun god, Ozpin was sure Naruto was one of the most important gods and thus had the most important and luxurious of castles. After all, the universe would be a dark place without suns to light it up. Yeah, nothing beats home. Naruto spoke with fond memories of his small apartment in Konoha and the trees that were mixed into the city, as well as the surrounding forest. He would always miss his home. That sounds rather nice actually. Blake said as she imagined her life in a place like that. Quite enough to be able to read but still big enough to get good espresso tea and tuna. Ozpin stood up, started to walk with the Naruto clone towards the elevator and Naruto joined them. He was going to stop at the bottom floor while the clone and Ozpin would be stopping at the lowest floors possible. They waited silently for the most part in the elevator until Ozpin decided he would ask Naruto a question. So why the name Naruto? Ozpin asked, seeing as he didn't know how gods picked out their names. My godfather technically named me. Naruto told Ozpin, who nodded his head. Of course, the father of a god would be a godfather. Naruto could see the misunderstanding in Ozpin's eyes right away, but he knew it would be pointless to correct it at this point. Seriously, there was nothing he could say or do other than die that would prove he wasn't a god. He was going to naturally live into his 100s and if he died of old age, people would just say his mortal form died and he returned back to the heavens where he came from. This is actually getting kind of funny. RWBY said as she saw Naruto's slightly annoyed face at his god status. It is rather entertaining. Purah said as she found it funny even if the book was getting a bit close to the proposition Ozpin gave her last month. There was no way for him to prove he wasn't a god, yet tons of ways for everyone to prove he was one. He was stuck in a stupid situation where he would look like an idiot for claiming he wasn't a god. When the elevator stopped, Naruto stepped out and it closed behind him. Now it was clone Naruto and Ozpin heading down deeper. So what is this gal's name? Naruto clone asked the tall man. Amber, and she is important to us. How up to date are you on remnant history? Ozpin asked, seeing as he was sure that a god had much more important matters to attend to other than watching mortals go about their lives. It would be another minute until they got to the vault. I know a little when I learned what was in that girl's heart. Naruto stated and Ozpin blinked. In her heart? Yeah, and my what? Yang asked as she looked down at her chest but unlike all the other times, didn't feel the pride of having an awesome rack but fear that someone now knew everything about her without getting permission. I'm sorry, but what? Ozpin questioned Naruto, who nodded his head with crossed arms. He was a great warrior, for one, and he was good at connecting his heart and memories to others who touched his chakra. It didn't make sense to everyone of course, but to him it did. I touch my heart to theirs and I can see everything in their heart. Their memories, their lives, what they love, what they hate. I see a person's true self when I bump fists with them. Naruto told Ozpin, and Ozpin looked at Naruto's fist when Naruto extended it towards Ozpin. That was terrifying to Ozpin. Yang looked a little pale at that. Even if this was just a fictional character, everything else was spot on, so what if he ends up reviling thing to her team? While she was glad when Blake told them the truth, she still believed everyone had a right to privacy and that someone had invaded hers without much or even a little effort scared her a little. The ability to learn nearly everything about a person and to learn about the things that even they did not know. The ability to judge a person, see if they were a good or bad person, their deepest secrets. This was the ability of a god to pass judgment on mortals, to see if their sins were heavy or light. Naruto sighed when Ozpin was too busy weighing the weight of that ability to react to Naruto offering him a fist bump. Pair and bro fist? John asked as he put his fist out to his only other male friend in Beacon. Ren just rolled his eye and fist bumped John. Wow, so that's why you have a strand of pink hair. John said as he looked amazed at Ren and Ren looked off from that. Oh, did you look into his heart? Oh, what kind of girl does Rinny really like but not like you know? Nora said as she looked at her fearless leader. Nope, just screwing with you guys. Haha, John said as he let out a little chuckle. Oh well, they reached the bottom floor. It was a huge, mostly empty room with only a large machine on the other end of it with two pods. In one pod with a girl in it and an empty pod. Naruto walked with Ozpin towards the girl and Naruto didn't even need to look at her to know what she looked like. When he sensed things in Sage Mode or 6-Path Sage Mode, he got images of what things looked like anyway. She was a beautiful girl, a little taller than Naruto by a few inches. Dark skin than Naruto and a deep shade of brown hair. She was thin, but not without a rather attractive body of her own. She had a little mole under her eye and she was wearing white shorts and a small white tube top to cover her breasts. She was also pale and she had a scar covering the majority of her face, only slightly messing with her beauty. Weiss looks like someone took your spot as the top scared beauty at Beacon. Yang laughed as Weiss glared at her. Though she will never admit it, she was glaring due to Yang being right. She didn't have the curves of her fellow HUNTRESSES and even RWBY, though she will deny that even more, she held onto the top spot for scared beauty, and now that was over. She is beautiful, sad she ended up like this. Naruto pointed out as Ozpin pressed a button and the pot opened up. Amber dropped out of it and Naruto caught her before she could touch the ground. He gently placed her on the ground and he looked at the destroyed skin on her face. That was a minor thing compared to what he was sensing. She had something in her that had been partially pulled out. No problem fixing that. Naruto placed his hand on her chest, she had very cold skin at the moment and Ozpin felt a pulse in their heart. He heard a loud thump noise and color started to return to Amber's skin. Ozpin's eyes widened when Naruto stood up and clapped his hands. Wow. I was expecting a ritual or something. RWBY said as she was thinking it would need for this Amber person to be put in the middle of that swirl symbol and filling it with his energy until it glowed or something. Yeah, I agree with that, sis. That was kinda anticlimactic. Yang said as she was expecting the same as her half-sister. No huge ritual? Ozpin asked in surprise. Huh? Of course not, she is all fixed up. I even restored her powers. That was a bit trickier though. Had to change the nature of my chakra, transform it into aura with the yin-yang release, and use that to fix her powers, she should wake up in a few moments. Naruto mentioned as he cracked his neck, he had such a crick in it. He could use a massage right about now. It had nothing to do with fixing Amber, he just turned it the wrong way and it was now a little messed up. Purah couldn't help but feel a little jealous at that her other wouldn't have to make the same decision she has been given. To take the powers of a maiden and give poor Amber a mercy killing or forget any of it ever happened. Amber started to stir and groaned as she woke up for the first time in nearly a year, feeling just as good as she had before. Ah! Amber shouted out as she jumped and got ready for a fight until she saw Ozpin. Please take it easy, you have some muscle atro. Ozpin was going to say her muscles had been damaged, but Naruto stopped him. No, she doesn't. I restored the lost tissue in her muscles, she is as good as new. Want me to fix your messed up face next? Naruto asked Amber, who was blinking in shock. She remembered having half of her powers stolen, but here she was, with all of her powers. She looked into her reflection on the pod that had been holding her and saw her own face. I wonder what happened to her. Did someone try to steal her semblance? Nora asked as soon as she heard powers her mind went straight to a semblance. I don't know Nora, but I don't think you can steal a semblance. Ren said as he found it hard to believe someone could steal the physical interoperation of a person's soul. Who are you? Amber asked as she looked into the reflection and saw Naruto behind her. This is Lord Naruto, the Sun God. Things had changed since you were hurt, Amber. He healed you, restored you. We all owe him a great deal. Ozpin spoke and Naruto grunted in annoyance. He wasn't a freaking god. You're right, Rubes, this is getting funny. Yang said as she let a tiny giggle out at Naruto's grunt. He had just got done kicking the ass of an immortal goddess, he was getting annoyed that nobody would believe him when he denied being a god. Sun God? Amber questioned and she could see it. When she looked at the sky, she could see a great sun behind him. Like he was light incarnate. A being of pure goodness, she could tell just with a glance how kind he was. Just call me Naruto, so want me to fix your face? Naruto asked her and she touched her face. Yes please, Amber requested and Naruto placed a hand on her face. Her face started to glow, before the scar she had started to vanish as her skin was restored back to its top condition. It was like she had never fought those three people in the first place. Never mind, Weiss, looks like you're still our top scared beauty. Yang teased her fellow team member. Weiss let out annoyed breath and looked away, not wanting her eyes to show the tiny bits of happiness at still being a top beauty. What she had a few self-image problems, Winter was only 3 years older than her and looked beautiful at her age. Her muscles were back to top shape. Her powers had been fully restored. Her body no longer had the scar from it. She was truly back to full health now. See you guys later. Naruto said as he turned into a puff of smoke, his clone no longer being needed now that the job was done. I am now a follower of the Sun God. Amber let Ozpin know we're the person she now saw as her leader. Yes, join me, my fellow sister in Narutoism. Nora yelled, but before she could continue Ren covered her mouth again. I understand. Ozpin spoke without any hurt feelings. He himself was pretty much converted. Well, that was a good chapter. So Blake, you want to continue reading or should someone else do it? Ren asked Blake as he kept his hand over his best friend's mouth. I'm good here, Weiss, you read. Blake said as she tossed the book to her white-haired teammate. Wait, why me? Weiss asked as she didn't offer to read. Because you seem like you would want to finish the story rather than do nothing but talk like those two would. Blake said as she pointed at the sisters. Point taken, Weiss said as she flipped till she found the right page. What if Naruto the sun god RWBY, and thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.